Benjamin Netanyahu there. Australians love to travel. Millions went on holidays overseas in 2012-13, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics. Since the introduction of E3 visas in the USA, there's been an influx of Aussies working and travelling in New York City. But has this led to Australians losing their foreign charm? To discuss this further, I'm now joined by freelance journalist Saxon Baird, who's recently published an article about Australians living in New York. He joins me now from New York via webcam. Saxon, g'day. It seems to be the case that Australians have been kind of flavour of the month for a couple of decades in New York City, but has it kind of reached critical mass there now and New Yorkers are kind of getting sick of us?
No, personally I don't think Australians have anything to worry about. While the number of Australians living and working in New York City and the US has seemingly increased dramatically over the past 6 or 7 years, the actual number of Australians living here is still relatively small compared to the overall population of New York. And I would also note that it's important to remember New York City is one of the largest cities in the United States, but also the most diverse.
But you just get I get the impression reading your article, and you make the point that it feels like there are as many Australians in New York City as there are bank branches. that there's a kind of thing that maybe it's just bordering on that stage where there are enough there as it is.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to this point that, about New York being really diverse. It's a perfect example of that diversity is that there are over 176 different languages spoken by children enrolled in New York City. So I don't think Australians have much to worry about as far as staying out there welcome. But it does seem that there's an Australian cafe or an Australian restaurant popping up seemingly every week. And you're constantly running into Australians at the pub and at different various places, standing in a queue.
But that's not a bad thing.
No, I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, broadly speaking, I think Australians and Americans actually share a fair amount in common. The most important, of course, being a common language. Also, I think culturally there's a lot of exchange between the two countries, which is whether it be music or television or film. And, even historically, those Americans that come from, an Anglo-European ancestry obviously share a lot in common with a large portion of the Australian population.
So in terms of raw numbers, has there been a particular increase over the past several years because of some visa arrangement?
Yeah, so you're referring to the E3 visa, which is, a bit of a peculiar visa that is specifically for Australians who are able to come here and work for an indeterminate amount of time. They have to renew it every 2 years. But it's endlessly renewable, it's cheaper, it gets expedited, and it's specifically just for Australians, so Australians can are the only ones that can actually participate in this U.S. work visa program. Now, how much that's affected actually Australians coming here to work, it's a little bit debatable, but I can tell you that in 2005, they estimated about 5,000 Australians living in New York City, and a 2011 study done by the Australian consulate in Washington, D.C. estimated 20,000. So, within a 6-year period, it skyrocketed by 15,000. And now it's 2014, I mean, maybe another 10? Who knows? But it definitely has increased.
And so what's the division of people actually going there for holiday and people actually going there and staying and living?
Yeah, well, I would definitely feel as though there's still like a number of people, like a lot more Australians coming here just to visit for holiday. However, I did speak to one Australian. She's actually a manager at a local cafe in Brooklyn, and she told me that she came here on holiday, loved New York City so much, then decided to try to figure out a way to stay. And she did not come on the E3 visa. She found other ways. She actually took an online class, which allowed for her to take the J1 visa, where she could also work part-time. And so my point being, I still think that there's still a lot of Australians just coming here for holiday, but I think some of them are coming here and liking it a lot and thinking about staying a little bit longer.
Yeah. And so do you get the sense that Australians are going to be, still flavour of the month there for a while? I was kind of getting the impression, or a bit concerned, that with that bounce routine that Hugh Jackman did at the opening of the Tonys, that might signal the end of the New York love affair with Australians. That's not the case?
I cannot speak on Hugh Jackman's popularity.
Did you see that bounce routine?
I did. It was
what did you think of it?
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan, but I'm sure there's people out there who are, and nothing against Hugh Jackman. I think that maybe a lot of Australians living in New York might be wanting to separate themselves from that bouncer team.
Okay, Saxon Baird, thanks for talking to us, and we'll see you in New York sometime.
All right, thank you, Jeff.
Cheers.